What a lot of people, what you'll see when you first maybe start doing any type of vertical jumping is that people will start to sit their hips back, right? So when they jump up, they'll sit their butts back and they'll jump, and even when they land, they'll land with their video, I'm going to be talking about working on vertical power or jumping. I do think that is kind of an area that is not really touched upon enough, and honestly not emphasized enough in rehab. I think you can gain a lot of information from doing kind of a simple vertical hop. I'm going to be showing kind of a basic level, but also talking about like different errors that you might see, and also showing a kind of a higher level exercise where you can maybe even reveal more compensations that they might have. So at the end of the day, there is research that supports the fact that when you're jumping vertically, you express more quad power or quad dominance as opposed to jumping horizontally, which is what the hop tests are. And I've shared in past videos where, you know, the hop test I feel like it's a fine test to do, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's doing what people think it's doing. And I think a lot of people believe that it's testing the power of your quads, when in reality it's actually more so probably testing the power of your glutes, because you're pushing in more of a horizontal plane. And so that's why I like looking at vertical power. We have force plates here that can actually measure the height. And often you'd be surprised. I've had plenty of people that have successfully passed the traditional hop test, whether it's any of the variations, triple crossover, or the single, but they cannot successfully pass the vertical on the force plates. And they'll sometimes, like, even though they're within 95, 100% of the hop tests, when you put them on the force plates, they're, you know, potentially 65, 70% different of the other side. So you're looking at a pretty significant difference. And again, I think it is a missing component that often really isn't looked at because people may not have the resources to properly assess it. So simple vertical hop. Let's say you're just, you know, at the end of the day, you're just trying to jump vertically, right? So here, jump up and then land, okay? So, you know, I've talked about single leg landing, so I'm not even gonna get into all that in regards to looking at the hip, knee valgus, trunk compensations. I will get into a little bit of the trunk compensations, but I'm gonna be most so focused on the knee position as far as like where it translates forward, and also looking at the hip, okay? So not necessarily like actual valgus or hip rotation. So in this situation, what you'll see is, obviously I want them to load the quads and I want them to jump vertically. I'm gonna show you from the side. So when you're here, what you'll see when you first maybe start doing any type of vertical jumping is that people will start to sit their hips back, right? So when they jump up, they'll sit their butts back and they'll jump, and even when they land, they'll land with their hips sitting backwards. Again, nothing inherently wrong with it, but for us, being intentional about what we're trying to accomplish, and when I do this, I want to see your quads doing mostly exploding, right? You know, there's people out there, Eric Myra is really, really big in the ACL road, and he always says it's the quads until it's not the quads. And that's more for the strengthening side, but I do think that applies to kind of this movement plyometric type of exercises. So what I would rather see is, and I might break it down. So let's say let's say you have them do a set of 5, and they're constantly just, you know, they're sitting their butt back, they're just sitting their butt back. They're technically landing it well, right? The control is there and all that kind of stuff, and they are jumping vertically. I want to see them get their knee forward. So I might segment it and break it up a little bit. I might have them do here, get the knee forward, and then jump, hold the landing, and again, see if that knee comes forward, okay? So again, here, pause, more quads here, jump, and then land. Better than I just did, okay? So again, you just want to make sure that they're not leaning forward excessively. Again, even if they're landing, right? So another compensation which I've expressed before during the single leg landing breakdown is that even if they load here, they might land like this way, right? Really lean forward, okay? Again, they're trying to figure out any way to take pressure off of their knees and their quads. But when they land, we know that the quads is one of the primary decelerators of a landing, of a sprint or anything like that. So you need to make sure that they can confidently do this well. And again, I promise you that if you start comparing between the two sides about the ACL and non-ACL side, you're gonna notice these big differences. So again, just to really recap this portion of it, is that you wanna make sure that their knee is translating forward on both the the trajectory upward and on the landing. And additionally, you're looking at their trunk and making sure they're not leaning forward on both, again, the jump and the landing. Because even when they jump, their knee might be forward, but on the actual takeoff, instead of just trunk relatively vertical and then jumping upward, they might do this, knees still forward, but then when they jump, they might quickly do a little hinge at the waist, okay? So again, those are kind of the two really, really major components that I'm looking at. I want them to make sure they're loading the quad, both on the jump and on the landing. So when you start progressing it, okay, let's say they demonstrate it on the ground and they start looking really, really good. And I definitely wouldn't start on a 12-inch box, so I'm just demonstrating it because it's what I have here. Same thing here, right? Let's say they, first you start with a 6-inch or whatever it is, and they don't really feel that confident, right? So let's say they do this. They might go back into the same mechanism. They jump, and they might land, okay? Land with that hinge again, because they're trying to offload that knee, right? So here, land, right? They might land this way. As opposed to what I want to see is, excuse me, knee forward, right? Chest is semi-vertical, a slight trunk lean is okay, it's expected. And then jump, and then land, okay? Again, knees should be forward, feeling your quads doing all that landing. So same concept as I just did over there is that I would probably break it down first, okay? I want to make sure that they are pausing, feeling the quads, jumping, and then once they get comfortable, they can land, okay? They can take off and land comfortably by loading the quads. And there's hundreds of variations at any type of single leg landing that you can do. This even applies to any type of lateral type of movement. So let's say you're doing a lateral bound, right? So when you jump to one side, maybe they're doing a little butt back here, butt back, doing skater jumps back and forth. Again, not loading the knee. Make sure they are loading the knee. Make sure they are loading the quads. So when you jump, load, 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 right? You should see them. You should see their knees coming a little bit forward. You should see their knees bending. You should see them actually like loading and like at the end of the day, your knee's kind of like a spring. And that's what I encourage them to feel is that you are trying to load that knee as opposed to sitting your hips back, having your trunk go forward. Those are, again, the two biggest things. So hopefully you guys found this video helpful as far as working on vertical power and vertical jumping. Again, I do think it's something that's really not really emphasized enough. A lot of people will do these kind of like the traditional hop test, but never really look at any type of verticality. Again, it's hard to measure unless you have the piece of equipment to do so. But I still think it's worthwhile for us to at least assess it when we're writing these types of plyos into their programming. So hopefully this video was helpful for you guys. Thank you for watching today's video. Please feel free to like and subscribe and share it on your social media platforms. If you're interested, I have started an ACL Mastermind group, which is a growing library of content centered around ACL Rehab. It has exercises ranging from immediate post-op to late-stage sport-specific movements and everything in between. It's a growing library and currently holds over 250 videos. There's content centered around assessments, movement breakdowns, exercise breakdowns, case studies, and a whole lot more. You also gain access to a private forum where you can engage with like-minded people, ask questions, share research articles, and share resources. If you're interested, please feel free to click the link below. Thank you for watching.